Welcome to The Freight Break with your host, Dan Lindsay, the podcast that cuts through the noise of the trucking industry. We're talking real conversations, real relationships, and real insight that keep the wheels turning.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Freight Break, your flagship podcast of the Broker Carrier Summit and the BCS Freight Network. Hopefully the most practical and profitable show in logistics, or soon to be. I am your host, Dan Lindsay. We got a fantastic show teed up for you today. Episode of Barrel and Burn. We're also talking to a good friend of mine, Troy Wiitanen. But before we get into the weeds, let's kick it over to our sponsors, TIE Software. Freight brokers, revolutionize your game with TIE Software's TMS. Instantly quote, book, and track loads with cutting-edge automation. Connect to carriers effortlessly and watch your efficiency soar. TIE's powerful analytics help you make smarter decisions faster. Ditch the chaos and scale your business with confidence. TIE Software, built for brokers, driven by results. Also, a quick reminder, if you have not yet signed up for the next Broker Carrier Summit, we are going to be in Orlando, October 28th to the 30th. This is an event you will not want to miss. It is quickly becoming the best, most profitable, most valuable week in freight. So if you have not signed up yet, go to our website, www.brokercarriersummit.com or bcsfreightnetwork.com, and sign up today. All right, welcome to today's Barrel and Burn, where we again review some of my favorite whiskeys, bourbons, and scotches, as well as give some reviews on some classic cigars that I've tasted and sampled over the years. If you know me at all, bourbon and cigars are kind of my thing. I don't do it for academic purposes, but there's a lot to learn about bourbons and cigars if you want to dig deep into it. Today we have the Thomas S. Moore Kentucky Bourbon aged in Chardonnay barrels. I was introduced to this bourbon at, to be honest, 11:45 on a Thursday night. And I was over at a buddy's house, and there was about 7 or 8 of us, and we had, drank a few already, and one of our buddies told us he was not going to be able to show up. Well, next thing you know, this guy shows up at like 11:45 and with one of these, Thomas S. Moore aged in Chardonnay barrels, or Chardonnay casks. And I gotta tell you, I was planning on leaving around midnight to get home at a somewhat decent hour. Did not leave at midnight. My buddies and I finished this entire bottle. It's fantastic. It's a straight bourbon from the same people that bring you 1792. This particular one is aged for 4 years in Chardonnay casks, and it offers a kind of a unique twist. Oddly enough, I am not a Chardonnay person. I do not like white wines, but it really works to lighten up this bourbon. It gives it almost like a sour apple brown sugar combination of flavors. It's bright, not too acidic, it's not too harsh. Really, really good. This bottle will set you back about $70. It's around the same as the Macallan 12 we reviewed the other day. Cheers. Oh, I didn't rinse the glass out, so that was tasting like hints of Macallan with that, and that was not sour apple. That was screw you, I'm a Scotsman. This is just going to be my forever glass. We're never going to wash this. This is going to be, I'm just going to sit this over here and we're going to leave it. And it's going to age. And it's going to have all the notes, 1,000 notes of 1,000 dead, killed bourbon barrels right here in this glass. So if we're going to give this one a grade, Thomas Moore, it's around $70. It's a good buy to value ratio though. Solid 8 on taste, 4 or 5 on price. So if you're looking for a good cigar to pair with your Thomas S. Moore bourbon, I would recommend the Abosincro Nicaraguan Fogata. Fogata literally means campfire. I was introduced to this particular stick at a cigar bar in Rosemary Beach, Florida, of all places. It is a full-bodied cigar, Ecuadorian Habano wrapper with a Mexican binder, Nicaraguan and Dominican fillers, I believe. If you take a sniff, I kind of smell moss, kind of earthiness. There's a lot of spices here. Around halfway, one of the cool things about this cigar is, so I bought a box of these, and there was about 20 in the box. And I took it to a camp out with a bunch of buddies of mine, because again, Fogata literally means campfire. So if you're looking for a good campfire smoke, this is fantastic. This gives you about 30 minutes, or about 45 to an hour if you smoke it as slowly as I do. But we're sitting around the campfire, and each of us have one of these, and about halfway through, and one of the guys jumps up and goes, "This tastes different." And I was like, yeah, about halfway through, it opens up, and I asked him what he tasted. He said, "I tasted honey." So there's a little bit of a sweetness right in the middle, in the core of the filler of this cigar. Really light. The draw is absolutely fantastic. It's a nice even draw. It's one of the most even burn cigars I've ever had. I always hate the cigars where you light it and the burn's all janky and it looks like an S on the end, and then you try and light it again and it burns and it chars and it's all black. Nobody likes that. This is a nice even burn. Very, very good. And again, cost effective. This one, I think this was around $9. So the Avo Syncro Nicaragua Fogata. All right, welcome to the segment Breaking It Down, and we're going to be specifically dialing in on best practices. And here to break it down with me today is a good friend of mine, a good friend of the Broker Carrier Summit, and I believe a first-time guest to the Freight Break. One of my go-to resources for how to best navigate the freight industry. Troy Wiitanen, everybody. Troy, how are you?
Dan, I am wonderful, thank you. Thank you for the invite to the Freight Break, and I am, just to confirm, a first-time attendee and participant.
Long-time listener, first-time caller scenario. Yes,
absolutely. Is there a gift or anything that I receive for that? Or
I think you are the gift that I receive by being on my show. That's the way that goes.
I can grow a little bit here. It's definitely graying. All I know is my wife has said this: don't you ever shave your facial hair off, because being bald and having no facial hair, she's like, I don't think that's a good look for you.
Man, that's a shots fired across the brow here.
You know what? Actually, that was a missed opportunity on my part. It was a missed opportunity. I clearly was talking about myself and thinking my wife had said to me, it would have been way better if I'd have threw a shot at you, Dan. Oh, man. Oh, God. Missed opportunity.
I've been hesitant to have you on the show because I know when you and I break things down, it's kind of like no holds barred. So why don't you first give us some background as to you? Yeah. And you're with Leonard's Express. Give us an overview of what Leonard's does, and how did you and I come into contact?
Yeah, so I'm a VP of Sales Business Development here at Leonard's Express. We are a family-owned transportation provider. We have 600 trucks, 900 trailers. We have a freight brokerage operation, and then we do some warehousing here in the Northeast as well. Our business mix that we handle is roughly 70% temperature controlled. So we specialize in that either frozen or refrigerated type of products. From my background perspective, so I've been in the industry since 1999. So I guess that makes me, I'm not sure if that makes me old in the industry or not, but I could tell you it's a lot different.
Seasoned.
Yes. It's a lot different today than it was back then. Like I came up in the industry through the freight brokerage side of the business, which has certainly given a lot of good background and experience for the last 11 years. I've been here at Leonard's Express in a multitude of different roles. Whether it's been on our assets, brokerage, warehousing side, and now on the sales side of the business. So, for me personally, I've had the pleasure of participating in all facets, of transportation. So I think that's given us a good different perspective where we're not pigeonholed, I guess, if you want to call it that, into one segment of the business. And I know you know this because I do say it a lot. When we bring up a topic, I frequently say, well, I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth because I
said that yesterday to me on a phone call.
I did say that yesterday. It is funny. I do it a lot, but I think part of that is because, whatever is going on in the transportation industry, we also need the perspective of what others are doing. So I think from that standpoint, this is a great subject and topic to get on. And how we connected, we met at a TIA event years ago.
Was it the fly-in or was it was it at TIA or was it Capital Ideas?
I think it was Capital Ideas, TIA Capital Ideas. Yes.
Yeah.
As we were doing our industry due diligence to call on Washington. That's when we put our grown up jackets on at that point.
Yeah. And talked with all the children who run Washington D.C.
You hit it on the head right there, my man. You hit it on the head. And then they let us participate, and they think we're the grown-ups. Wow.
So what a wacky world we live in right now.
No doubt.
When it comes to relating to carriers and approaching carriers for business, first of all, help us understand what the carrier brings to the table in the freight equation, and what are some of the best practices that you've experienced, both because you come from the broker side and the carrier side and the warehousing side. So technically you're also a shipper. So help us understand what are some of the best ways in which we can approach shippers as a broker or as a carrier?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to, as we're approaching, you have to know what is your wheelhouse, right? And I know that may sound pretty simple, but you have to know what you're going to go ask for from a shipper perspective. Here's what shippers don't like. What I can tell you is you call up a shipper. Let's say you get a hold of the traffic manager and they say, Hey, Dan, what can you do for me? Well, I can do everything. Okay. That is generally a turnoff to a shipper, because you're not necessarily coming in with a target, right? Like, what do you do best? And it doesn't matter what that best is. Like, as you know, there's all sorts of different opportunities, out there, whether you're shipping temperature controlled freight, whether you're shipping dry freight, flatbed freight, tanker freight. Like, you have a specific niche that is your wheelhouse. That should be your lead in. Frankly, there's two things. It can be from a service perspective. And when I say service, going back to the temperature control dry, flatbed, whatever that may be. But I would also say your lead in that should be something to do with a strong service lane that you've got.
And I think it's important too that the shipper that you're calling matches that service that you provide. It's not going to be terribly helpful if you haul reefer freight and you're calling, someone who needs steel coils moved.
100%. You got to take a little bit of time to do a little bit of research. We know that that's challenging for some of us in this transportation industry at times, and because everybody's trying to make their mark. Everyone's trying to find their way within their own company, whether that's a carrier or a broker standpoint. But when you're talking to, before you make that call, like, okay, if you see that they're doing rebar, steel coils and stuff like that, and if you're a refrigerated carrier, that's probably not someone you should be calling on.
Yeah. Well, even if you're a broker that specializes in refrigerated freight, right? I mean, because if you spend all your time moving produce, I guarantee you the first flatbed load you move of shingles out of Oklahoma or Oregon is going to be an absolute mess, because you don't know what corner pieces are. You don't know how to tarp a load. You don't know any of that stuff.
You don't know any of those sort of things. So when a shipper, assuming you get to the point where you have the conversation with a shipper, focus on what you do well. But no matter what, from a shipper perspective, it still is a sales job, right? They want to know what's in it for them.
Right.
Right. That goes without saying. Like, I could have 100 trucks in Rochester, New York, ready and available. But if that just doesn't match, then what are we talking about? But I also agree, though, you have to go through some of those, initial questions or fact finding to get to that stage. But just be prepared, and just to continue on that, a little bit. I think the biggest thing that you as a carrier or broker need to be aware of, aside from knowing who you're calling, right, is what you do. Like, what do you do? Like, okay, if you're a carrier, like, where do you send your equipment?
Right.
What modes do you service as a broker? Where are your strengths?
Yeah.
Be confident in your ability. And you're right. If you haven't shipped a flatbed load before, okay, then I wouldn't lead with that. Right.
Right.
Right. I'm not saying you can't approach that business, but build up a trust factor first with that shipper that you're working with.
Right. Yeah. Well, and from a broker perspective as well, it's important as a carrier. Obviously, if you're a carrier, you know what loads you haul, you know what lanes you need. As a broker, you have to do double the due diligence, because you not only have to know what you're capable of doing, you have to know what carriers you have in your network. I'm not talking about your 95,000 carriers that you can find on a load board. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the carriers that you know, that you work with on a regular basis. You have to know their lane needs, right? You have to know their capabilities, their capacities. You have to know their schedule, right?
Yeah, because you need to know what differentiates you. Because this is a common response I think you get from, I know you get from the shipping community at times is, okay, well, I'll use us. We have assets, brokerage, and warehousing, and we always have the topic of conversation of, well, we have trucks, we have a brokerage, we have warehousing. Listen, using our brokerage gives us some added flexibility. I mean, a truck can break down. I mean, certainly you don't want that to happen. We're driver sick, whatever, that may be. But I think you have to be specialized and be aware of what your capabilities are. I know we've kind of touched on that a little bit. But still, you just have to be confident, because the shipper natural response is going to be, well, I already work with X number of brokers. So why should they add another one? Right. Mm-hmm. That
is your job as a salesperson to let them know what that reason is. It's not their job to figure it out.
100%. And again, I won't speak for every whether it's carrier or broker that's out there, but you do need to know where you fit in and what you do differently. Because there's plenty of providers out there that do the, let's just throw it on the load board type of scenario. We know how that turns out in the grander scheme. What I would tell any, I guess that's more focused on the broker side. If that's your strategy, I would recommend you taking a step back to really work on a strategy perspective. I know we're talking about shippers, but that would be a good recommendation for you. But just know your business. Know your business. I could speak for us. Okay, yeah, we're 70% of the freight that we haul is temperature controlled. So by our business mix, yeah, our brokerage side of the business is significantly weighted on the temperature controlled. We've been able to sell that model of servicing both sides, and we've done it efficiently for years. So that's our niche. Like, you have to know your niche.
Yeah. So it sounds like, best practices when it comes to carriers, and we only talked about a few today, but it sounds like know yourself, know your prospect, know your customer, and know who at your customer or prospect you need to talk to. Well, thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate you coming on and breaking down best practices when it comes to approaching shippers. We'll have to have you back on the show to talk about best practices as a broker and as a carrier, since you've been on all three sides of the equation. Look forward to hearing more of your wisdom.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, Dan. I appreciate you taking the time to catch up with me.
All right. Always a pleasure, Troy.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, well, that's all we have for this week, everyone. We hope you have a great rest of your week, and make sure to register for the Broker Carrier Summit coming up in Orlando, Florida. You can learn more at our website, www.brokercarriersummit.com. Also, if you have something you want to submit for the Freight Therapist or one of your favorite whiskeys, scotches, bourbons, or cigars, make sure to put it in the comments or email us at dan@brokercarriersummit.com, and we'll be sure to work it in. Until next time, everyone, have a great week. Take care.